point, and this has to do with nutrition also, is to prioritize protein. So protein, number one, a high protein diet. When I say high protein, it's about 0.6 to a gram of protein per pound of body weight in normal weight individuals. So take your body weight and a little more than half your body weight up to your body weight in grams of protein is what you're aiming for. The higher amount tends to work better. So I said 0.6 to 1. Closer to 1 tends to work better in my experience. But it builds more muscle, which boosts the metabolism. It also, on its own, has more of what's called a thermogenic effect, meaning a gram of protein actually burns more calories than a gram of carbs or a gram of fat. So protein also has this effect where it burns more calories on it. It's nominal. It's not a huge effect, but over time it makes a difference. And then here's the third reason why I like prioritizing protein. It's very satiating. It's very, very satiating. So when you're eating a high protein diet, especially at the end when you've lost the weight and everything, high protein tends to make you feel more satisfied, more balanced energy. You maintain more of the muscle. So when you're doing this kind of reverse diet process through strength and combined with strength training, prioritize protein. What does that look like? Every meal, make sure you eat the protein first. Figure out how much protein you eat for the day, divide it by your meals. Eat that first, then eat everything else, and the rest typically takes care of itself.
I find this even more important than the whole calorie thing, even though I understand that if we're in a deficit, we're going to lose. If we're in a surplus, we're going to gain, and that's something we're not breaking those laws, right, of physics. But I definitely think that for the average person, just learning how to focus on hitting what your protein intake, your daily protein intake should be in order to build muscle, that by itself and just focusing on it, it kind of takes care of a lot of things.
It does. If it's whole foods, you'll typically get the calories.
It's hard to do. It really is. For most people, it is hard to consistently get enough protein in and day out for the optimal amount, so ideal amount of protein that you are to build muscle, consistently do that. And if you do that, I feel like the other things kind of take care of themselves.
Well, it's interesting because it's so satiating. It's easier to eat less, but if you're not seeking protein, because it's so satisfying, it's easy to not eat it if you're eating everything else with it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. No. But if you eat the protein first, you're going to build more muscle, you're going to get more of what you need, and you're going to feel better from a satiety standpoint, especially at the end when you finally do cut your calories after this process of boosting your metabolism.
We say this a lot, and I want to add to this because I think this is important, is that to me, it's not only do you eat protein first, but it has to be protein in there. In other words, I brought up the other day when we were talking, had a similar conversation. And so let's say the guys say eat protein first. They have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they always make sure to eat their protein in that order. But then they have these snacks in between. Oh, grapes here and some almonds there, and it's what ends up happening is they tend to mostly snack on carbs or a fat, like an almond or what that, and you end up hitting your calorie budget for the day and still don't hit your protein intake because your 3 small meals only had 30 grams a piece, which is 90 total grams of protein, and your body needs, for argument's sake, 180, and then you fill the rest of your calories up with the grapes, the almonds, and some what we would call healthy snacks, but because you weren't protein focused, you ended up still hitting your calorie intake and not getting enough protein. So it's everything needs to be protein focused. If you're going to have a snack, then I'm thinking, okay, I need to get a
good protein snack?
A majority of protein first, and then I can have those almonds with it, or I can have those grapes with it, not them by themselves, or else what ends up happening is you kind of graze all day and you end up hitting your caloric intake, you can't do any more, and then you're short on protein. That's super common.
This one's really important, and that is to phase your training. If somebody trains for a full year doing a bench press, and they're always aiming for 5 reps, if you compared that person to a person who did bench press where they did 3 or 4 weeks of 5 reps, but then they did 3 or 4 weeks of 12 reps, and then 3 or 4 weeks of, let's say, 15 to 20 reps, and then they'll throw in some supersets. At the end of that year, you're going to see more consistent progress from the person who's moving in and out. And less injury. That's another thing. You'll see less injury as well.